won't give you any.
I don't know, we can
I
just,
call this regular meeting of the North Adams City Council to order for February 13th, 2024. This meeting is being recorded. This meeting can also be viewed live on the Northern Berkshire Community Television Station, Channel 1303, and will be posted to their website as soon as possible. We will also be live streaming on YouTube at www.youtube.com/@NorthAdams. Just click on the live tab and then on the 2024.02.13 council meeting. Will the clerk please take the roll, please?
Blackmere? Here. Bona?
here.
Green?
Here.
Fitch?
Here.
Morrow? Here. Alaskowitz?
Here.
Shape?
Here.
Wilkinson?
Here.
Sapienza?
Here.
9 present.
Okay, we have a quorum. Okay. It's okay. Moment of silent please stand for a moment of silent remembrance. Tonight, we want to remember Nancy Zeider, City Financial Officer, Acting Treasurer, and Business Manager for the North Adams Public Schools. James E. Foster, teacher at Brayton Junior High School. Alfred Pat Anderson, 7th and 8th grade science teacher, Freeman Junior High and Conti Middle School. Mary Heiser, Secretary, North Adams Public Schools at Johnson, Brayton, and the Central Office. Juanita DeSandro, some of you may know her as Mrs. Carlisle. She was a teacher at Conti Middle School. Barbara Bashevskin, Planning Board member and Chair, member of the Community Development. And Marianne Esposito, who was a poll worker. And the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, the meeting minutes for January 23rd. I would like to ask for a motion to postpone. We do not have the minutes available.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any discussion? Okay. All right, hearing of visitors on the agenda. This is an opportunity for the public to speak to the council for 2 minutes regarding items listed on the agenda. As a reminder, we ask that you remain within the 2 minutes to enable all who wish to speak to have an opportunity and refrain from personal attacks. Anybody wish to speak tonight? Your name and address for the record, please step up to the microphone.
Can
Yes,
I do
fine.
this? Probably a good idea. My name's Diane O'Donnell, and I live at 313 West Main Street in North Adams. I'm a new resident, fairly new. I bought a little house about 2 years ago, and I'm retired here in North Adams, and I have a part-time job at MassMocha as a museum attendant. And I would just like to state for the record, I'm living here because I love North Adams. I think it's a wonderful place, and I'm really happy to be here. I want to talk a little bit about the crosswalk safety. And I've had 2 experiences with 2 specific crosswalks. One is West Main and Brown Street, where the bridge is that's been blocked off and National Grid is, where my dog and I were almost hit in broad daylight not too long ago. It's okay. And then West Main and Richview, that odd street that sort of goes off at an odd angle across from the West End Market. So I would just like to say I'm a big person. I have a big black dog, and we were almost hit in broad daylight crossing the street at Brown Street. And I think a man was on Brown Street and was just going to make a left-hand turn. And I thought he saw us, and he didn't. And I think one of the issues is the crosswalk it's really not marked in any way that you can see in broad daylight. I couldn't see it coming here tonight. And also, in conjunction with that, there's no stop sign on Brown Street to make people really stop and think and look before they turn. That's sort of something we all learn in kindergarten. And I think really well-marked crosswalks are a really good first step in that, in conjunction with stop signs and maybe a flashing light, whatever is needed, whatever's affordable for the town, whatever you can do without a traffic study. The other is in front of the West End Market, which I think you all know has just been bought by this lovely family who have moved here. They're going to live here, and they're going to start a business.
Wrap this up because
Okay.
You're up to 2 minutes, so.
Okay, so I think they'd really, without putting words in their mouth, appreciate it if we all supported the business. And a lot of my friends want to walk there, and I think that we need a safe, comfortable way to get there, particularly because a lot of us have to cross that street where traffic is terrible, as I'm sure you all know. There aren't any lights. People come zooming up the hill around the corner, which makes crosswalks even more important. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Brian, excuse me, Counselor Sapian.
Yes. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Ben Westbrook. I live at 165 East Main Street, so bottom end of East Main, and I have a storefront on Eagle Street. And the subject of crosswalks and indeed traffic safety is one that's really dear to me. I speak openly and eagerly to lots of visitors who come to town about how this is an incredibly walkable city. Lots of things are easy to access. The flip side of that, which I don't tend to tell guests unless they have kids, is that it's also really dangerous to walk around downtown because traffic hauls through there as if they have somewhere to go. Both coming down East Main Street and coming, whatever it is, south along Eagle Street, traffic seems to not slow down much below about 30 miles an hour, which is really fast for narrow residential / commercial district roads. In fact, just walking down here just now, I watched 4 cars go through the intersection at the bottom of East Main. The first one actually stopped, which is not common. And the other 3, the first one almost got hit by a car that was going, it was crossing traffic, and then the second 2 just fully rolled through the intersection. So it's a question of crosswalks, but it's also a question of how do we actually control traffic and mitigate speeds as vehicles move through our downtown. It's important to me that we have an accessible and friendly and welcoming downtown, and not feeling like you're going to be crushed by a 2.5-ton vehicle at any moment is a major step in that direction. And Eagle Street at this time of night feels like a death trap, especially if you have a 4-year-old, which I do, because he knows how to look out for traffic, but he's also a little kid, and it's a narrow road, and trucks come through there at really unpleasantly high speeds and can't see a thing at this time of night. So anyway, whatever can happen would be great. More crosswalks, more lights. Speed tables are great. I'm not an expert on traffic control, but I've lived in places where there were speed tables, and they do a lot to slow traffic down and don't do a lot to slow emergency vehicles down. So that's what I got for now.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none. Without objection, I would like to move council paper number 12,362 up on the agenda. And I will read that item now. Council item number 12,362, communication number 222 from Mayor Maxey for swearing in of firefighters Jeffrey Rodriguez and Jeffrey Tykot into service for the North Adams Fire Department. Mayor?
Thank you. I'd like to call
Chief LaFave, Deputy Chief Patno, and firefighters Rodriguez and Tycott to the floor. Just be careful not to trip over the wires. And also Clerk Lee and Ajo.
Mayor, is there anything you'd like to say about these gentlemen before
Of
we?
course. Gotta put my glasses on. Tonight, it's my honor to present firefighters Jeffrey Rodriguez and Jeffrey Tycott for swearing in as full-time firefighters for the city of North Adams. Both firefighters successfully completed the Massachusetts Fire Academy and graduated on January 26th. Firefighter Rodriguez is from Dorchester and is a United States veteran of the Army Reserve. He has a Bachelor of Liberal Arts with a concentration in criminal justice from UMass Boston. Firefighter Turcott is from Williamstown. He was a member of the New Ashford Fire Department. He holds an EMT 8 license, and I'm sure you've seen him working for our local ambulance. Firefighter Tycott holds a bachelor's degree in International Affairs and Criminology from Florida State University. Gentlemen, as you take your oath, I ask you to promise to always be concerned for others, that you have the willingness to help those in need, that you have the strength to bear whatever burdens might be placed upon you, and you have the strength of mind and body to deliver safety to all the residents of the city of North Adams. I would now ask the clerk to administer the oath.
Will the clerk please swear in the officers, please?
You can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jeff Rodriguez,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts
I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts
and will support the Constitution thereof,
and will support the Constitution thereof,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform the duties incumbent on me
discharge and perform the duties incumbent upon me
as a firefighter for the North Adams Fire Department.
as a firefighter for the North Adams Fire Department.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Congratulations. Thank you. Welcome to the team. Welcome to the team.
Okay, I will call a short recess, so if the families would like to leave, they're welcome to stay and watch us make government happen. If not, we'll reconvene here very shortly. Thank you. Okay.
Brian, can you come back, gavel in, so I know?
Okay. We're gonna get, well, okay, yep. All right, next item, council paper number 11,826. An ordinance to amend the revised ordinances of the city of North Adams regarding various fees established in the city code, postponed from the meeting of January 23rd, 2024, with a return date of February 13th, 2024. Discussion. Counselor Bona.
Let's make sure this is, so I'm going to be requesting to postpone this. You can see attached, we did get feedback from the solicitor, and it's quite lengthy, almost a couple dozen pages. with a bunch of recommendations and other things that the Finance Committee will need to review and go over, and we'll probably be setting up a meeting with the solicitor. So it does look like they really did go through it in depth, along with catching other things that may be in conflict or that need to be put in that we didn't put in. So I'm glad it took a long time, but it does seem like they did go through it pretty detailed. So now it's back in our hands and to review that. So I'm thinking 2 months. We could do it a month, and if we're not done by then, postpone it. But that, so at this point, I guess are we on the communication, or are we on the actual ordinance? Yeah. So I'll make a motion to postpone to the first meeting in March.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Council paper number 12,336, communication from former council president Blackmer regarding conflicting decibels and noise ordinance, chapter 14, section 4.1, and chapter Z, section 11.1.3, with request to refer to general government with a return date of February 13th, 2024. The communication is filed without objection. And council paper number 12,336-1, an ordinance amending chapter 14 entitled Offenses Miscellaneous, section 4.1 entitled Noise. Do we have a motion on the order? Or, I'm sorry, discussion? Councilor Shade.
Yes, so this, we had a meeting at General.
You need a motion.
Should make the motion
Okay.
before the discussion.
All right. All right, motion?
Move to adopt.
Move to pass to a second reading and publish as required by law.
Second.
Okay, Councilor Blackmer, Councilor Shade. Discussion. Councilor Shade.
Yes, so general government met on this at our last general government meeting. There is a little bit more information in the paper that was sent out to everybody. Essentially, what was decided is that after speaking with several officers who also attended the meeting, that having a decibel level in ordinance, having a strict number in there, made it very difficult to enforce disturbing the peace in any meaningful way. It also required that additional tools and training be provided in order to meet and measure those decibel numbers. And so the recommendation that came out of that meeting was to completely repeal the section in both sections of our ordinances and not have a set decibel level. The disturbing the peace law would still be in effect, and it would actually make it easier for police to enforce and respond to situations in the community where noise was an issue, and they would have a little bit more flexibility in order to respond to that, because they wouldn't be required to wait for a specific threshold. The determination of that is reasonableness, which is defined elsewhere in Massachusetts law and in police enforcement. So the recommendation that comes from general government is to repeal both ordinances and to not have a specific decibel number available for a noise ordinance, and to just allow disturbing the peace to exist as is.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we have a motion. Oh, Councilor Bona.
Yeah. So just to be clear, so will it come down to more the opinion of an officer at that time?
That would be my understanding, is that the officer on duty would have kind of a jurisdiction to determine what's reasonable, but it's not arbitrary. It's the definition of reasonableness is what the average person in that neighborhood or area would consider this to be a disturbance to their everyday lives. And so that's really the bar that's set without a decibel number, which is a lot more reasonable when we're asking our officers to go out there and deal with noise complaints. And it makes a lot more sense to allow them to use their professional judgment to kind of guide that. There's no definite one way or another, but it's a lot easier than requiring extra tools and measuring equipment to make sure a certain decibel level's met. And if the decibel level's not met, they can't do anything at all, which restricts them from other things that might be disturbing, noise disturbances, but don't meet those decibel numbers. So it just makes it a little bit easier and less stringent in determining what is a violation.
Okay, anybody else? Counselor Wilkinson.
I think a good example of that, which was offered to us by the officer, would be your neighbor's out mowing their lawn at midnight, and the lawnmower in itself doesn't go over the decibel limit, so there's really nothing the officer can do unless he brings all his equipment with him. Is it reasonable to be mowing your lawn, say the two houses are very close together, at midnight? And the answer is probably not, but he could then therefore act on that rather than bringing out his decibel meter and finding out that, oh, gee, it isn't loud enough. So that was a good example.
Okay, Counselor Bona.
Obviously, one of the things that have come up recently, has been a concern about, noise complaints of the business on Current Highway. How will this, if anything, change how that is looked at or considered?
So currently, they have certain regulations that they're required to meet. Removing this specific ordinance removes the, I believe it's 65 decibel limit that is currently set. There are two different limits set, 65 and 80. Removing the lower end number made more sense. If we were just going to remove one, the goal would be to remove both. As far as that business is concerned, they still have to operate within their business license and still have a permit to operate that type of business. In the future, businesses that may have louder ordinances than what would be considered reasonable may need to apply for a special permit to be granted to operate. But that's something for the planning board to decide and not really for us to decide. For us, it's making sure that the ordinances align correctly, and because we have conflicting ordinances that make it really difficult to enforce completely, it's the recommendation to remove both of them and go back to the reasonableness.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to pass to a second reading and publish as required by law. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, Council Paper 12,336-2. An ordinance amending Chapter Z entitled Zoning, Section 11.1.3, entitled Noise. Okay, do we have a motion on the order?
Move to refer to a joint public meeting with the planning board and then on their agenda to make a recommendation back to us. Since it's a zoning ordinance, we need to do that.
Second.
Okay, Counselor Blackmer, Counselor Shade. Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Approve to have, pass this on to the planning board for a joint planning board city council meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Council Paper number 12,351, in order amending the 2024 Council Rules of Order referred to general government at the meeting of January 9th, 2024, with a return date of February 13th, 2024. Okay, on this one, I think we're going to do this rule by rule. I think this would be the easiest way to do it. And rule number 1 was to amend the rule to add a new sentence in such of an event, whereas a scheduled city council meeting falls on Christmas Eve, such meeting shall be rescheduled by a discussion and vote by the city council body no less than 1 meeting prior to the affected meeting. Rescheduled meetings must be posted in accordance with the open meeting laws. Can I get a motion on that, please?
Move to not enforce that, not put that in the rules.
Excuse me, point of order?
I'm sorry? Yes.
This was referred to general government and is now coming back from general government with recommendations. You haven't asked for what the recommendations were.
It's right in the thing. It's in the notes from the general government committee.
Yes, I know, but not everybody in the world got those notes. Just people sitting on this panel.
Okay. Counselor Shade.
Without objection, I'd like to provide that update. Thank you. So the general government met on each of these. I have written out what our recommendations were in regards to this particular change. We recommended that the full council debate this and make a decision together rather than a decision from general government with a recommendation to adopt. So we do believe there was reason to have discussion on this, that the full council could decide whether or not we should or shouldn't adopt. And we thought that this particular issue warranted that discussion.
Okay. Counselor Blackmer.
So my motion is to not adopt this, and if I have a second, I can then talk about why.
Second.
So my thoughts are, one, I think we open a can of worms when we start picking days that we don't want to meet. In particularly, December 24th has a religious connotation that we're not doing. But I also don't think, I think that we should, in the ordinance, change it so that if we do not have an agenda, or if we have no new or returning business on the agenda, we shouldn't meet. I think that covers what our intent would be. I think when we start picking dates, specific dates, we go into a zone that I don't feel comfortable in.
Okay. Counselor Shade.
My opinion on this is that we should adopt it, not for any religious reason, but because of public access. Many of us know that families and people travel and are not available on Christmas Eve, and our meetings should be as accessible to the public as possible. We know that most people aren't going to show up or be a part of a meeting on Christmas Eve. Whether that's for religious purposes or not, whatever their reasoning is. Some people, it's just to celebrate with family and be with their families. But the majority of the public is not going to be accessible on that date. I don't believe in doing it because it's a holiday. There are many holidays or what people perceive as holidays that things happen. But it is a day where the majority of the public would not be available, and I don't think it's a good idea to hold a meeting on a day where the public is not available. Also, the wording of this allows the council to decide themselves whether or not to have a meeting on that date. It does not say that automatically that meeting would be canceled. So I think it opens the opportunity for the council to decide together whether or not they should meet. And if there's pertinent business and they believe that the public will be available, we absolutely should and would conduct the business as we're delegated to do. However, I do believe that accessibility is a huge issue, and holding a meeting on a date where we know the public is not going to be watching or not going to be available is not in the best interest of the city, and it's not in the best interest of the people of North Adams. Thank you.
Counselor Blackmer.
I think we do the same thing by not putting anything on the agenda. And I also think, okay, so the 24th and the 26th, some people could say the same thing. A lot of people travel then. Where do you draw it? I think it's more up to us, and then meeting and deciding whether we're not going to meet. I think we do that by not putting anything on the agenda, by making sure we're not continuing items to that particular date, unless obviously there's going to be circumstances where we may have to do that. But it just, I really think that we need to have change the ordinance to reflect the fact that if there's no new or returning items, then we don't meet for a lot of reasons said, I'll put that on an ordinance for the next meeting, but I could get into all that. But again, I agree with you that people are traveling. I think half of the city council travels out of town on the 24th, the 25th, or the 26th. And like you said, the public probably isn't paying attention. But I don't want to make that decision for them, other than the fact that I feel more comfortable changing the ordinance and making it if there's no agenda item, and then intentionally not putting things on the agenda.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Repeat the motion, please.
Motion was to not approve.
Not adopt this.
Okay, there was a motion on the floor to not adopt this. A yay vote would not adopt this. A nay vote would allow it to become on the rule. So let's
Point of
go ahead. I'm sorry, Counselor.
Yes, point of clarification. I believe a nay vote would just fail the motion and we'd be back to needing a new motion,
Okay.
right? So a yay vote would be to not adopt, but if the majority of people said no, that doesn't mean we are adopting it because the
Okay.
motion is to not adopt.
Okay.
So then you'd have to have another vote.
We'd have to have another motion,
vote.
yeah.
Another
okay.
motion and another vote.
All right, so let's do it this way. Okay, so to not adopt, all in favor of not adopting this rule?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call,
Raise hands, please.
roll call.
You want to do roll call? Okay, let's do a roll call.
I didn't catch them all.
Blackmere,
Yes.
Bona,
No.
Green,
Yes.
Fitch,
Yes.
Morrow. Yes. Alaskowitz.
No.
Shade,
No,
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Sapienza,
No. Okay, it is not adopted.
What's,
It's 5 yeas.
5 yeas.
5 yeas, it is adopted. It doesn't need a majority. A
Point
supermajority.
of information,
It doesn't
to amend
change.
the rules is a 2/3.
Is it?
Yeah.
Or does-
It's got to be 6 to 3.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'd have to find the original rules. They're not in here.
Debate must be confined to the merits of the motion. Debate can be closed only by order of the assembly or chair if no one.
These are council rules, though. These aren't orders.
point of order
Counselor Shade.
or point of clarification.
Yes.
We didn't, the motion was to not adopt, so I believe a majority does pass that threshold to not adopt, and the motion would stand because we're not adopting. The vote was to
Right.
not adopt. If it was a vote to adopt, I do believe that it is correct. We would need 2/3 to make a positive change, but the vote was to not change it at all.
Okay.
so that means it passes.
Okay. All right, next one. Rule 1A, cancellation of meetings. And this was a new rule. Under no circumstances may a scheduled city council meeting be canceled by any vote of the council body to do so. Meetings may only be canceled at the discretion of the council president or vice president acting in the president's absence, or by an urgency communicated by a qualified public official when there is an imminent danger to the council body or the general public in attending the meeting. Such emergencies may include extreme weather conditions, ecological dangers, technological, man-made disasters, or any other dangerous circumstances. In the event of an emergency cancellation, the meeting should be rescheduled to the next available Tuesday. Rescheduled meetings shall be posted in accordance with applicable open meeting laws. Councilor Shade.
Yes, an update from general government on this. When we had discussion on this, we thought the language was very vague, and to just say a qualified public official doesn't really define anything. It's not specific enough as to what a qualified public official is. We do recognize a need to have language around emergencies and around weather, and our recommendation from general government was to send this to the city solicitor requesting proper language so that the language would not conflict with either our city charter ordinances or MGL.
Move to not adopt.
Second.
Adopt. Okay, we have motion and second to not adopt this rule.
Can I?
Counselor
Okay,
Blackmer,
So
yes.
several things. One, we scheduled to the next available Tuesday. I don't think we need to reschedule. We can reschedule according to what we decide. People might have, actually, we went through this. We changed the ordinance last year. I think this is redundant. I find it under no circumstances is almost aggressive and dramatic and unnecessarily so. I think if it's in the ordinance, we don't need a council rule about it. Council rules are for the things that aren't really covered. So I think that we put it in the ordinance, and the ordinance was run by the solicitor. So I think, again, this is redundant. And obviously, when you talk about, qualified individual, the governor declares a state of emergency, the mayor declares a state of emergency, closes all public buildings, you're told to stay off the roads. I know, and I also know that I've heard, back in the day, Mayor Barrett went and picked up the city clerk, had the police department pick up the city clerk so that they could hold the meeting, and I'm sorry, I know. And we used to walk 2 miles both ways uphill in a snowstorm. We know better now. So it is, I think we know how to determine. If there's a hurricane that comes through and all of our people are busy dealing with emergencies, it's not the best thing to do to worry about meeting unless we're meeting about the emergency. So I think we know how to make the decision, and I trust the president in consultation with the mayor or other public safety officials to be able to make that decision, as I have done twice in my different times on the council. Also, if you have no power, it's kind of hard to have a meeting if you have no power in this day and age. So I would suggest we cover this in ordinance and it's done.
Counselor Shade.
I would agree with that. I also think that, another option that could potentially be covered in ordinance is if there's an emergency situation where there's a city emergency and we can't get here physically, that we have an option of having a hybrid or virtual meeting to conduct city business in an emergency if necessary. That's something that could be looked at separately with an ordinance, and I think that would be a much better provision than just going about this way. And I also do believe that the ordinance does enough to cover the situation, so I would agree with Councilor Blackman.
Counselor Blackman.
I agree with that option, except it doesn't help if we don't have power or internet.
Correct.
That is true.
So, or if some of us don't have power, because that's the other thing is you could have half the council has power and half the council doesn't. So, but yeah.
Okay.
And there also are state law special provisions. If we had to meet to do something, there's ways of doing it if you have to, and you just call it somebody and they'll tell you how to do it.
Okay.
So.
Anybody else on that? Okay, one thing I'd like to add too is if you go to a hybrid meeting, I think with open meeting laws, you have to have at least a 48-hour notice to switch it to a hybrid.
Unless it's an emergency.
Right.
There are rules.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak out.
No, that's fine. Okay, so now we have a motion to not adopt Rule 1A. And let's do a roll call on that, please.
Blackmer,
Yes.
Bono,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Fitch,
Yes.
Morrow. Yes. Alaskowitz.
Yes.
Shade,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes?
Sapienza,
I'll go yes on that too. Yep.
9 yeas.
Okay, that will not be adopted. Okay. So that's enough. I had a couple more in there too, didn't I? Yes, okay, here we go.
It's connected at the top.
There it is, okay. Yep. Yep, all right. Okay, Rule 7, Order of Business. Add a new item between item number 4 and 5, renumber accordingly, insert oath of office. This was to allow, like we had tonight, swearing of officers. put that into the order of business to allow a quicker meeting, to allow people time to come and go. The families don't want to sit through a lot of business before we get to that point. Counselor Shade,
Yes,
please
first,
comment.
an update from general government. We recommend not to adopt this proposal. At the discretion of the council president or chair of the meeting, they can move the agenda around without objection already. Also, this would place oath of office before public hearings, which wouldn't be allowed. Public hearing or public meeting would have to come first before doing any type of new business in the meeting. Therefore, the recommendation from general government was not to adopt, and I will move that we not adopt this change.
Second.
Not adopt. Okay, we have a motion not to adopt. Any discussion? Counselor Blackmer.
I think this was brought up last term, and the conversation was pretty much the same. The idea is we can do it without objection. There might be other things on the agenda that really do have to take precedence. Some of it legally, some of it because other people might have traveled from out of the area to speak to something specific, say our accountant or our attorney, who we're paying by the hour. So I think that I agree with the recommendation of the General Government Committee.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to not adopt. This will be a roll call vote.
Blackmer,
Yes.
Bona,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Fitch,
Yes.
Morrow. Yes. Alaskowitz.
Yes.
Shade,
Yes,
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Sapienza,
Yes.
9
Okay.
yeas.
Okay, not adopted. Rule number 10, hearing of visitors on the agenda. In the last paragraph, remove the phrase, "His honor, her honor, the mayor," replace with "the honorable mayor." And add the following to the end of the last paragraph. Any rebuttal or correction of fact to statements made by a member of the public during the hearing of visitors on the agenda should be made during the discussion period of the pertinent agenda item. Counselor Shade, do we have an update on that, please?
yes. As far as the phrase "his, her, honor, the mayor," that had already been updated in council rules previously in multiple sections. It's no longer in the most current version of council rules, so we don't need to make any changes. That was adopted and debated last year, and those changes were already made. In regards to the second item, the General Government Committee recommends not to adopt this proposal. The reason being is that if somebody says something that's factually incorrect, to be able to say that nobody should have the ability to be recognized to speak and correct them is a disservice to the city business. It's a disservice to the community, to the public, and everybody involved. What is very important is that we should all recognize that in order to speak, we should be requesting permission to do so through the chair, and the chair should recognize somebody to speak. And that is already the rule, but we just believe it needs to be enforced better and would help with this being any kind of an issue. So the General Government Committee recommends to not adopt this proposal.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second not to adopt. Counselor Blackmer.
I think we can already do that anyway, particularly with, when they're speaking on agenda items. That item is posted on the agenda. When we speak about it, either somebody from the administration, the mayor can say, "I'm sorry, that you seem to misunderstand, this is blah, blah, blah." Particularly with this, because the hearing of visitors, they're speaking specifically about agenda items. So I think that this is, again, somewhat redundant about what we can do. But I do appreciate all the work that you put into this, President
Thank you.
Sapienza. I know we're kind of cutting a lot of it, but it's given us a lot to think about and to talk about, and I think that's as important as whether or not we adopt everything.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right, we have a motion on the floor to not adopt, and let's do a roll call vote, please.
Blackmer,
Yes.
Bona,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Fitch.
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Alaskowitz. Shade,
Yes,
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Sapienza,
Yes.
9 yeas.
Okay, rule number 11, open forum. Add a sentence at the end of the paragraph. Any rebuttal or correction of fact of two statements made by a member of the public during the open forum should be made during the counselor concerns portion of the council meeting. Counselor Shade.
Yes, an update from general government. We recommend not to adopt this proposal for the same reasons. Again, anytime somebody wants to speak, they should be recognized. They should raise their hand and be recognized by the president. So long as we're doing that, we can keep things in order without preventing people from just speaking out to try to talk someone to correct a statement of fact. They already require being acknowledged, and so we don't need to move this to another portion of the meeting. We just need to make sure that we get acknowledgement before we speak to an issue. So the General Government Committee recommends not to adopt the proposal, and I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Counselor Blackmer.
As with this particular situation, we do have to be careful not to go down the rabbit hole of deliberation. And there's been a few times where it got really close to that line, and depending on who you ask, it might have gone over. So, but that's up to the president should be monitoring that. That's when it starts going around the table with the counselors. But it is, and we've had that. I mean, where somebody has said something and the mayor has, pulled up a note and said, no, this is what happened. Or sometimes people don't understand things like Chapter 30B, procurement law. We have clarified things when we've had to, but I do agree that it's good to do it, be acknowledged by the chair, but also make sure that we don't start deliberating.
And the intentions of rule number 10 and 11 were to prevent that deliberation from occurring, and that there is a time that we can rebut. But okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? Counselor Shade.
Yes, I want to thank you for bringing this up. It's important. It's an important reminder to all of us as well that we should also wait to be recognized to speak, even if we want to jump out there and correct something or have a conversation. It is important to be recognized and that we follow those rules too. So bringing this up is a great reminder for us to remember what the proper process is. Thank you.
Break, you guys.
Counselor Blackmer. Did you have your hand up? No. Okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor to not adopt.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Counselor.
This is pertaining to rules number 10 and 11.
Yes.
At the opening of both hearing of visitors and an open forum, are we supposed to be?
Excuse me, 10 has already been voted on.
All right, so we'll stick with number 11.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
We still say the phrase "no personal attacks." Are we supposed to strike that?
I know Counselor Sabians has stopped doing it because
I said it tonight, but
We are
through
infringing.
the chair.
Counselor Blackmer.
So I was still talking, but I'll back
I'm
away.
sorry, go ahead, I can.
Continue, Counselor
I'll just-
Leskowitz.
Are we supposed to still be saying that? Are we infringing on someone's freedom of speech?
I think that's a gray area. I think we could use it as a reminder to just keep it civil if we can. I mean, people are going to say what they want to say, but I think if we just use it as a reminder and not a requirement of the of that particular part of the meeting. Counselor Blackmer.
Yeah, I want to clarify. I know that we used to say no personal attacks. The reason I stopped saying that as president because the SJC, Supreme Judicial Court, made a ruling on March 8th of 2023 saying that you couldn't do that, that somebody could make personal attacks. They could call us. The case was Southbridge, and they called them a Nazi. They can do. The public is entitled to, for their 2 minutes, to say things about us that we may not want to hear or like, and unfortunately, they can do that. We may not like it. Now, obviously, asking someone to be civil is, I think, a good idea. We could add that, keep it civil. We're all here to make, do the best we can for the city or something like that, but that is the reason. I know that there were people that were really disappointed in me for letting people complain about an employee, but I had to. I couldn't shut them down because they had the right to complain.
Thank you. Counselor Shade.
Yes, thank you. I'd also like to, remind everybody and as a reminder myself as well, public forum, open forum. These really aren't times for debates. What this was to rebut infactual information, which I think it is important to correct. If somebody says, they can say whatever they want, but if they say something that's factually incorrect and we have information that is correct, I do think it's important to raise your hand, be acknowledged, and be able to say that is incorrect, here's the correct information. The public has the right to know when things are incorrect and have the correct information provided to them. But again, those times shouldn't even be times for debating back and forth or going back and forth, only to provide information, strictly to provide correct information if we need to respond. But in general, we shouldn't be responding anyway.
Thank you, Counselor. And that was the intent, just to remove deliberation from that particular part of the meeting and put it into a section of the meeting where we could rebut it. And that's all it was, to correct incorrect information. Okay, we have any other comments on that? All right, motion to not adopt. Roll call vote, please.
Blackmere,
Yes.
Bona,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Fitch,
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Olaskowitz.
Yes.
Shade,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Sapienza.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Okay, motion to not adopt. Rule number 11. Rule number 30, counselors and staff. Add a new paragraph at the end of the existing rule. Counselors should notify the city clerk or the council president if they will be unable to attend a meeting as soon as possible before the scheduled meeting. Notifications by email, phone are acceptable. And phone also means text messages. Counselor Shade.
Yes, the General Government Committee met on this, and we did recommend to adopt the proposal with the language that counselors should notify but are not required to notify. It's a courtesy to notify people if you're not going to be at the meeting, but we can't force people to tell you that they are or aren't going to be at a meeting. We are all elected officials who have our own duties and due diligence that we are supposed to perform our duties, but it is a common courtesy to let someone know that you won't be there. So we did vote to recommend to adopt, and I will make the motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt and a second. Counselor Blackmer.
I'd like to amend to include the vice president.
Okay.
Second.
President or vice president, okay. So the amendment would say counselors should notify the city clerk, council, okay, get rid of the word or after city clerk, the council president or vice president if they will be unable to attend a meeting. All right, adopt our Counselor Wilkinson.
Still under discussion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Personally, they should, common courtesy. However, why do we need to put it in council rules? If it's common courtesy, but putting this in the word counselors should notify but aren't required to, what's the point of putting it in the rules at all?
As a reminder. Counselor Blackmer.
Thank you. I was in when I first got on the council. I remember, I chatted when I met with Councilor Martin. He was the president when I was first elected, and he said, yes, if you could notify me, or the vice president. And having been the person in the chair, it's frustrating. You don't know if you're going to have a quorum. There's important topics to be discussed. Some people have done some homework on certain things, and you hope that they're going to be there. And it's really helpful. I know, and sometimes we've had counselors who chose not to notify anybody. But then we'd sit there and you'd be waiting, and it'd be 2 minutes of it, and you're doing the count. And also I like your fact. It's a reminder, and I think it's just common courtesy, and it's common business practice. And although, I mean, I remember being told, well, I don't work for anybody here, I work for the voters, but I'm not sure how I can notify the 13,000 people that live in the city that I'm not going to make the council meeting.
Thank you. Anybody else? Counselor Bona?
It's there, but, you know, I will agree with Counselor Wilkinson. It's an unenforceable rule. There's a lot of things we should do and that we do that are not in our rules. You know, it's an unenforceable rule. It's not an ordinance, and there's a lot of things I think, just as human beings, we should do. It could go either way. It's there, it's not. If you don't call someone, it's not, you're not punished for it. You're not reprimanded. So I guess it's more or less a council rule reminder.
Oh, a new section.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a rule to adopt as amended. Counselor Blackmore.
Point of order, we vote on the amendment and then we vote
Right,
on the.
okay. All right. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. Okay, let's do a roll call on on that one. Okay, so on the amendment to add the vice president to this rule.
Blackmere,
Yes.
Bona,
Yes.
Breen,
Yes.
Fitch,
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Alaskowitz. Shade,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
No.
Sapienza.
Yes.
We have 8 yeas.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt as amended?
The motion's already there.
Yeah, okay. All right, so let's vote on the motion as adopted, the rule as adopted. Would you do a roll call vote, please?
Blackmere,
Yes.
Bona,
Yes.
Breen,
No.
Fitch,
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Alaskowitz. Shade,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
No.
Sapienza.
Yes.
We have 7 yeas.
Motion approved. And lastly, rule number 31, cell phones. All members of the city council and visitors to the city council meetings should silence their cell phones during the meeting. The phones do not have to be turned off. A silent notification is acceptable. It is asked of the visitor to the meeting that needs to receive or make a call during the meeting should exit the council chambers to conduct their conversation. Counselor Shade.
Yes, so the recommendation from general government on this is to not adopt, but to add a reminder that the president or chair of the meeting at the beginning of the meeting remind all participants or people to silence their phones and take calls outside of the chambers. City council rules are for us as councilors, but they're not for the public. And so it doesn't really fit to have this in here in our city council rules. I think it's great, and it would be a great thing to remind people to just silence their phone before the meeting, remind them to take calls outside of the chambers. But we voted not to adopt this rule as a city council rule, and I will make that motion not to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to not adopt the rule. And we have a roll. Any discussion?
I left mine in the car.
Thank you. Seeing none, let's do a roll call vote on that.
Blackmere,
Yes.
Bona,
Yes.
Breen,
Yes.
Fitch,
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Alaskowitz.
Yes.
Shade,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Sapienza.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Firefighters. Okay, moving on to new business. Council paper number 12,363, communication number 23 from Mayor Maxey requesting time to present a proclamation in support of Black History Awareness Month. Communication is filed without objection. Mayor, would you like to speak on that, please?
Yes, thank you, President Sapienza. Have it. Proclaiming February 2024 as Black History Awareness Month in the city of North Adams. Whereas February is recognized as Black History Month, a yearly celebration acknowledging the remarkable achievements of the Black community and highlighting the pivotal role of African Americans in shaping our history. Whereas during Black History Month, the city of North Adams is dedicated to commemorating the resilience of African Americans against various forms of oppression, particularly racial terrorism and instances of police brutality. Whereas this year's theme, African Americans in the Arts, underscores the city of North Adams' celebration of African, Caribbean, and Black American lived experiences. The creative contributions of African American artists serve as a powerful means of preserving history and empowering the community. And whereas Black History Month is an opportunity for all North Adams citizens to reflect our enduring contributions and legacies of all of those who played pivotal roles in building our nation. Therefore, I, Jennifer A. Maxey, Mayor of the City of North Adams, do proclaim the month of February as Black History Awareness Month in the City of North Adams. I encourage all residents to join me in honoring the significant contributions made by African Americans and to actively participate in commemorating events for this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you. Council paper number 12,364, a communication from Councilor Fitch requesting time for a presentation about crosswalk safety and discussion of opportunities for improvement. Communication is filed without objection. Councilor Fitch, would you like to present that to us, please?
I would, and through the chair to the mayor, would you be open to me using your podium for this? Thank you.
Excuse me.
And Councilor Sapienza, could you just pause for about a moment as that
Yes.
gets started
Okay,
up?
yeah.
Thank you.
You're gonna talk.
Councilor Fitch, I think if you turn off like the second switch from the left, that'll blink out this row of lights so you can see the screen better.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, there we go. Okay.
Yep. And that,
There, that's better. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Why are the lights blinking on?
It's going to happen. Let me just plug it.
If we all stay really still, they'll just think we're frozen that watch.
There it goes.
Yep.
All right, folks, it's about to
you.
happen. It's going to be great. Okay. Pretend you're not seeing the whole thing. Okay, folks, thank you for this time. I wanted to give this presentation about crosswalk safety in North Adams. So, son of a gun. Gotcha. That I don't know how to address, but here we go. About crosswalk safety in North Adams, we heard from some of our visitors earlier today that crosswalk safety is important to our residents. I would be very surprised if everybody in this room has not had or witnessed or experienced in some way a close call, a run-in with a car, or a run-in with another pedestrian or another car around North Adams. I suspect this is due to a number of reasons, which I'll get into in just a moment. My purpose here is to produce street crossings for pedestrians which are safe, visible, and beautiful for our residents, students, and guests, no matter how they get around the city. So that goes for drivers just as much as it goes for pedestrians. My agenda is to go over what I perceive as a problem or problems, identify some potential solutions, and get into some potential action items. Perceived problems that I see: lacking visibility and or lighting of our street crossings around our city. That several of these street crossings are in disrepair and or, I made up this term, but under-beautified. You know, frankly, some of them are just a little ugly right now. Doesn't mean that can always be the case. And some of them are missing, or I perceive are missing. I do believe we could probably use some more where people commonly cross streets. This is the current state of affairs. This is what we're going through right now. You know, North Adams, I'm sure you folks have seen plenty of crosswalks like this. Here you'll see Holden Street and Eagle Street, some common crossings that people cross from a parking lot or from a different parking lot to cross the street to a business. A lot of people cross outside of crosswalks, and I just wonder if we might identify some new opportunities for crosswalks. Some potential solutions could be using technological advancements, using bright or reflective paint or some other kind of material that makes them a little more visible, and involving the creativity and leveraging the creativity that we have here in this city. So some examples, leveraging technology. Williamstown has several crossings on Route 2 through their town that allows their college students especially to cross campus a little more safely. They light up when you press the button so that they can be more clearly identified at night. There are also many reflective paint solutions that are out there in the world. Other potential solutions using little reflectors in the actual street, or painting our crosswalks. Now, of course, that doesn't necessarily give more visibility at night, but it sure does during the daytime. Also would help beautify our city. A couple other examples here. This one on the left, and folks, my agenda is not to propose a specific solution. I just wanted to give a couple of different examples. This one on the left, I believe, is in Iceland. Basically, 3D painting or painting 3D images of a crosswalk is proven to slow cars down and also to beautify a city. This one here on the right is actually downtown North Adams. This was painted several years ago and has since, wiped away for the most part. So what's next? I propose that we have a discussion here within our city council chambers and consider referring this subject to the administration and to some different commissions and committees. That's the conclusion of this presentation.
Okay. At this point, Councillor Fitch, what is your pleasure on this?
What is my pleasure? Yeah, I propose that we refer this to the administration for research, that we refer this to the Traffic Commission and Public Art Commission, and to the Public Safety Committee.
Okay.
Second.
All right. So we need a motion to refer with a return date of, when would you like to see this back?
The first meeting of March.
Just a point where that may be difficult for Traffic Commission.
And public
I
art.
believe it will be.
And everybody, and you want us to do research, we need a little more time.
Okay. That's all right.
I would recommend,
guidance.
Councilor Blackmer?
Well, I was gonna recommend to be early April, but,
That's my suggestion too, was to recommend to the first meeting of April.
and I kinda wanted to comment on, but I raised my hand because I know that, there was this whole conversation about painting the sidewalks, and we got some pushback from the administration, in the past administration, actually even before that, because of MassDOT and federal law, but they've actually made some changes, and I don't have the article right now, but they are actually encouraging people to do that, and they've gotten rid of some of the restrictions. So I think that changes the conversation about painting the sidewalks. The crosswalks, I do that all the time. Painting, we could paint the sidewalks too while we're at it. Painting the crosswalks, I think some of it goes back to the administration. Do we want to do all of these things simultaneously, or do we want to kind of have stepping stones, is my question.
Absolutely.
So Shade.
I guess for clarification purposes, and thank you for the presentation, as somebody who walks everywhere, I definitely recognize the need for more crosswalk and sidewalk safety. But what exactly are we recommending? What is the specific proposals and specific things that we're looking to do? I think that language is very important when we're sending it to committee.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I believe it is, because we're asking them to do research on what exactly do we want them to research? Just lights? Do we want them to research new points of avenues for people to cross across streets? Do we want them to research sidewalks? Are we asking them to research all of these things, or specifics of these things? The coloring of the crosswalks might be more of a public arts and traffic commission, but not so much public safety, or installing new crosswalks. They might go to different things that wouldn't go to public arts. So I would want to know a little bit better on what exactly we're recommending and what task we're sending to which committees, to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts. And I believe the mayor can also speak to that a little bit, what the administration's already doing. But we don't want to duplicate efforts, and two, we want to make sure that whatever is getting sent to these committees comes back with something that is actionable, that we can do to help make it safer.
Gotcha. Well,
Oh,
no, you can go to some.
Councilor Bona.
So I would probably debate that in the sense that it's broad, but that's okay because I think from what I saw, what you're asking for is to let's discuss safety and options. And so if it's going to the Traffic Commission, I'd imagine you would be there with your presentation.
Got it.
And, Traffic Commission's going to be more looking at safety and law of what is available, because when it comes to crosswalks, you can't just put it, even if it's just the white lines, you can't put them everywhere. DOT removed a crosswalk from Main Street several years ago because there was too many too close. A crosswalk has to be visible within so many feet. So that's why there's not crosswalks where you think there should be, because depending on a slope or angle, you have to be able to see a crosswalk within such a distance. So there are those rules and set, which to me, that is what Traffic Commission and Public Safety sort of bring forward. The Arts Commission, they'll probably be wondering why we're bringing this back to them within a year, because it was about a year ago that we brought this to them, and then I sent it back because they basically sent it back to us with no answer, and then I said, well, we want some suggestions, and they basically went with, well, at that time, the DOT says, no, you can't do artistic stuff. But I'm glad to hear that that has changed, because I was very supportive of wanting to do that at that time. So I don't think it needs to be as specific as maybe you're looking to go. And again, I think it's the administration, it's the Traffic Commission, it's the Art Commission, and I think if you go into them, you're going to find what parts they're going to handle and be able to do, along with recommendations and thoughts from the administration. So I'm okay with it just as is, saying send this to those commissions and discuss it there to see what they want to talk to about more detail.
Mayor, did you have something to say on that?
I would prefer, thank you, Andrew, for the presentation. I do appreciate it. I would prefer that it gets referred to my office. I can work with Counselor Fitch on some of his ideas. We can do some research within the administration as to what's reasonable for us and what's what we can do. And then at that point, I'd be happy to refer it to Traffic and Public Arts. But I'd like to have further discussion and come through the administration as, sidewalks, and as Miss O'Donnell, nice to meet you, talked tonight. Those are things that could be fixed through public services and don't really pertain to the council. It's more of an operational need. But I do definitely agree that this is something to be looked at, but I'd like it to start in my office first.
I would like to add one item. I did see an article a couple of days ago where the Department of Transportations in some places are beginning to rethink painting the crosswalks. They're saying that with the higher visibility colors and different designs, make them more visible to motorists and pedestrians. So that might be something that's changing down the road. Counselor, would you like to amend your motion to refer to the administration?
Yes, I would. Yeah, and may I comment on that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I would do that. My intention here is not to solve this problem right in this moment or to prescribe this problem, a solution to this problem right now. I want to start the conversation, and I recognize, government, in spite of the fact we move somewhat quickly in here at times, it can be slower, and I recognize that. I just wanted to start the conversation, so thank you. I will amend to refer to the administration for research and conversation, hopefully with me, too.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, let's vote on the amendment to,
Return date?
yes, on your return
With
date.
the return date of the first council meeting in April.
Okay, a motion to amend this to send this to the administration and with a return date of the first meeting in April. Do we have a vote? Okay, do we have a second on that?
Second. Amended.
Okay, we had a second on that amendment. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Now on the original motion as amended, we have a motion, and did we have a second on that one? the original motion as
Oh,
amended?
we must have as we went
Yeah.
into discussion.
Yeah, okay. All right, all in favor of
Aye.
the,
Oops,
as
sorry.
amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. That'll be postponed to the motion passes, postponed to the first meeting of April, and referred to the administration. Okay, Counselor Fitch. All right, council paper number 12,365, a communication from Counselor Fitch requesting time for a presentation regarding a proposal for a downtown cultural district electrical box arts project. I'm going to file the communication without objection. Counselor Fitch, would you please present your information?
Yes, stand by for 1 second. Okay, so folks, this is a different presentation with a very similar look, and had I realized they were stacked right next to each other, maybe I would have switched up the slides a little bit more. But my purpose here is to produce a beautiful, engaging downtown experience for our residents, guests, and small businesses to engage with, benefit from, and be proud of. So the agenda here is to explain what we have, or what I see as that we have, what we could have, and how we might start to get there. What we have, and this is for the electrical junction boxes, which are seemingly always right next to traffic signals. What we have is this, and many more as well, but these are just 3 of the downtown junction boxes or electrical boxes that I have seen. As you folks are probably viewing right now, you know, they're not all in horrible shape, but most of them do have graffiti scratches on them, and some of them are actually very unappealing. And these tend to be on very prominent sidewalks right next to prominent buildings around downtown. What could we have, or what we could have, is beautification of these boxes, and without great cost or effort. And I'm saying this based on research that I've done, that other cities have done, such as Pittsfield, just to our south. So folks can paint murals somewhat easily on these boxes. Here are some other examples. Some of these are from Pittsfield, some of these are from other cities. And it turns out I probably have a bias for blue because most of them are blue. However, we could have a bunch of different options. What you're seeing here, however, is, you know, quality murals, essentially paintings on these junction boxes, which I think is a good thing for our town. And same thing for, you know, what I had proposed before. I'd love to have a discussion here, and I'd love for us to consider referring this to the Administration for Research and the Public Art Commission.
Okay, do you
to
have a
amend that if
motion,
need be.
sir?
My motion is to refer this to the Administration for Research and the Public Art Commission,
And return date?
with the return date of the first meeting of April.
Okay, we have a motion on the
Second.
floor to, okay, motion on the floor, first meeting of April, and refer to the administration. Yes, can we turn the lights on again, please? Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in, Counselor Blackmer.
So I'm not sure it has to come back to us. I mean, I appreciate the presentation, but I think this becomes the purview of the administration and the Public Arts Commission, and, you know, other than maybe an update, it doesn't really come back to us, but maybe that's just me.
Okay, Counselor Bona?
Counselor Shade did have.
Oh, Counselor Shade.
Go ahead.
You sure?
Bona.
Couple things, which I'm sure the administration, when they look at this, is not all the boxes are owned by the city.
That's right.
And some of them are actually on private land. So if they're on private land and they're privately owned, the Arts Commission can discuss it, but they really have no authority over it. But beyond that, you know, and I'm going to guess if they're owned by National Grid or anything, you know, you need to get permission from National Grid. And obviously other cities and towns have. So.
That's right. That's the kind of research that I would hope we would uncover.
Counselor Shade.
Yes, the question that I was going to ask, and I suppose I still will, through the chair to the mayor, does the city own any of those boxes?
Some of them we do, some of them we don't. I'll use the example of the Christmas tree. There's that ugly green box, and we made a cover for it, but we had to get permission from National Grid to cover it, and it had to have a hatchway, so if they had to get in, they could just quickly pull it off. So you will have to evaluate which ones are ours, which aren't, and what is appropriate. But that's kind of a pet peeve of mine when I see them scratched and things like that. So definitely something to look into.
Thank you. With that, first, thank you, Councillor Fitch, for the presentation, bringing this up. I think it's a worthwhile project. I would also agree with Councillor Blackmore. I don't think that this is something that would need to be voted on by the council itself. I do think working directly through the administration with the Public Arts that commission, that this project can be done and make things more beautiful. But I do thank you for taking the time to bring this information forward and make this presentation. And I look forward to seeing some hopefully beautiful art on some of these boxes. Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor. Should we just dismiss the motion and just...
Have them withdraw the motion.
I'm sorry?
Have them withdraw the motion.
Okay, Counselor Fitch, would
Yes.
you like to throw out your,
I move to withdraw the motion.
thank you. Okay, so actually, we will,
So do we have then what's the next motion? Would be to refer to the administration?
They don't need one.
no. you
You're
don't
just,
need-
okay, you're just saying
He
that.
could just
okay.
go, he can go to the administration and find out,
Okay.
first of all, the legalities of being able to paint these boxes. I think it's a great idea, as long as we don't interfere with the function of these equipment boxes. And it would definitely beautify our sections of the city. I mean, it's better than the graffiti that's on them now, so definitely. And I thank you for your presentations.
Thank you.
Okay. Council paper number 12,366, a communication from City Clerk Leonazio requesting to allow Chief Bailey and City Clerk the responsibility to assign police officers to the polling place for Election Day.
Move to adopt.
I
Second.
filed the communication without objection and motion to adopt. Counselor Blackmer, and who's second?
Counselor
Oleskowitz.
We're interchangeable.
I'm sorry, Counselor Wilkinson.
No, Counselor.
I'm doing the same thing as Counselor Blackmer.
Yeah.
All right, motion to approve.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. All right, we have no taxi licenses. And we have no secondhand dealer licenses. Open forum. Opportunity for the public to speak to the council for 2 minutes on issues of municipal significance. And we ask you that you remain within the time frame. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Darrell Wilson, and I live at St. Joe's Court. Sorry I got upset. I just, it's good to have rules, but the rules are getting a little ridiculous. You're not getting work, and some of it is ridiculous what you've been talking about, and some of it is just common sense and courtesy and all that good stuff. People need to be courtesy. Shouldn't force it on people. Not nice. I had that all my life, and that's why I get upset with that. I'm a good person, and I like the idea and your idea that about the sidewalk, that it needs to be done. You can't see them during the daytime. And I go to Windtown, you can see it, and they got the light. There's no excuse. That's what you're supposed to be doing, and that's what the government is supposed to be doing in Boston for us. And people need to hold them responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Name and address for the record, please.
My name's Diane O'Donnell, 313 West Main Street in North Adams. And I spoke earlier about, again, the need for better crosswalks. And in connection with that, although now I've learned this is probably an issue for the mayor, so I'm glad that she's here. I'm really concerned about the sidewalks and the curbs. for safety's sake, and also for what I hope would be a cost-effective way to beautify the town. And, the issue here, we have an issue here with blight of all different kinds. I mean, it didn't keep me from living here. And I bought a house next to an empty lot with an old shed on it. So, but I still feel, where I live on, it's the only way to get from, like, the Big Y going west is to walk on Route 2. And the sidewalks are very dangerous, particularly in front from my house going west, maybe to the West End Market. They're very dangerous. I've tripped over them. I've fallen shoveling the snow and shoveling my neighbor's sidewalk. We have a lot of people in this town who don't have cars. They have to walk. They're elderly. They're ill. They have a lot of trouble. I've seen them fall down. Likewise with curbs crumbling. And I know we seem to have a program of fixing that. And I'd just like to encourage you to keep up the good work and maybe consider the area where I live, because I said it's really the only way to get from the Big Y west. The other thing is I feel very strongly about beauty. It's not just for rich people in rich towns, it's for everybody. And I think beauty feeds the soul, and poor people, ordinary people, regular people need it as much as anyone, probably more so. And we should really, it matters when the sidewalks look nice, when the garbage is picked up, when gardens or empty lots are rewilded. That's spectacular, the job that was done.
You need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I would just like to say, as a resident, this is important to me and others, and I hope you keep up the good work you've already started. Thank you.
Anybody else for open forum? Name and address for the record, please.
I'm Robert Smith. I live at 163 North Street here in the city. That's all well and good about the crosswalks and our efforts to make them workable for the drivers. But then, what about the drivers? How are you going to control them? Because no matter what you do with these crosswalks, it's all up to the drivers. I could be crossing Main Street in the crosswalk. Lots of times drivers don't stop, they see me there. So it's all about the drivers. You've got to think about that equation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for open forum? Okay.
Frank.
Okay. Name and address for the record, please.
Ben Westbrook again, 165 East Main Street. To this gentleman's point, there are things that can be done with signs and with lights and with textures to the roadways that can encourage drivers to do the right thing, but indeed enforcement is a major part of it. And I think especially with the intersection at the bottom of East Main Street, New England is sort of known for having complicated and weird intersections, and I feel like North Adams has more than its fair share of them. There's at least like half a dozen that are like deeply complicated and bizarre that don't follow normal rules. And the bottom of East Main is one of those. And signage would help a lot, but I think that actually having some like engaged enforcement administration question, really some engaged enforcement of both speeds going up and down East Main Street, but also how people act as drivers going through that intersection would be really helpful. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none. Mayor's updates. Mayor?
So getting back to just a comment about sidewalks and curbing. We do have an engineering project, a quick list of what it would cost us to replace certain sections of town, and that is on our list, certainly. So that, coupled with what we need to do with the wall in that area, makes things a little more difficult. So we are aware, and we are certainly trying to take steps towards fixing that, and I'd love to chat with you a little bit more after. And I totally agree with you about the East Main Street intersection. I drive it every day, and it is a challenge. We've talked at one point about possibly putting up a flashing yellow light somewhere between the library and the monument to slow those people down. I think we all should take driver's ed again and learn how to drive through that intersection. So points well taken. Thank you for sharing tonight. But I think Mr. Smith hit it on the head with drivers. I walk my dog quite a bit in those areas, and people just don't stop for people in the crosswalk anymore. So it goes back to enforcement as well. So thank you for all of your points tonight. Just want to let the council know that we have started working on our budget. Because we have a lot of new members, we're going to try to start a little bit earlier. So Councilor Bona, I'll be reaching out to you to kind of start getting some dates, so we're not running right up to the June deadline. And we've got a lot of projects underway. I think you've all heard about the YMCA, which is very disappointing, but we are working very hard on getting another entity or reconfiguring that building to have some type of recreational center. We already have the front section of the building pretty much accounted for, but we definitely will be opening the pool in some fashion and trying to build out the other recreational pieces as we move forward, whether it be another recreational entity, a different combination, or portions of the Y and their thought of trying to be without borders. There's some programming that they may need to come back to us for. So that is work in progress. The pool roof project is underway, slow but going. So we hope to have that done very soon. The most exciting thing and fun thing that I have to offer tonight is that Saturday, February 17th, is Winterfest from about 10 to 4. We are going to have the horses back, many things going on the main street. We have free skating at the ice skating rink. I will be reading some children's books at Moulton's. We'll have a bonfire, lots of things going on, but most importantly, our annual craft fair will be held in Terra Nova, so I hope everyone can stop in at some point throughout the day. I'll have Lindsay email all of you the schedule, but it is on our Facebook page, so please share with all of your friends, and we look forward to a fun day on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This one I'm just going to ask. Okay, committee reports and minutes. Councilor Shade, do you have anything else to add about the General Government Committee meeting?
I do not at this time. The report that was submitted was to be in conjunction with the items on tonight's agenda. I thought it best to write it out for each section so you could see our recommendations. I just thought that might be easier since there were a bunch of different ones based on what was proposed. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, any other committee reports or minutes? Hearing none. Liaison updates? Okay, hearing none. Councilors' concerns? Councilor Shade.
Yes, not a concern, but through the chair to the mayor. I know we have the Mohawk Theater lighting fixed. Are we going to be using the marquee again anytime soon? Will that be used for Winterfest?
Yes, so the marquee is probably at 99.9%. We are just finishing up some punch list items, and yes, we will be using the side panels. We're waiting for the new letters to come in.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
A follow-up on that, so will it be ready for First Friday of, when's the next one, March?
Yet to be determined.
Okay.
I don't want it to be lit until it's perfect.
Perfect is the enemy of the good.
I know, I don't like, yes, so.
And my
I'm
only
very-
concern is also like now in the winter when it was the darkest days.
Yeah.
We didn't have it lit, and now we're getting into the
So
spring.
just remember with the construction schedule that the owner of the marquee right now is the contractor. So until the punch list is done, it doesn't get transferred back to the city. So we're very, very close. We're working on March 1st. We'd really like it to be March 1st. But I want it to be perfect. We've waited this long to see it, so.
Counselor Bona.
Chair, to the mayor. My understanding, it's sort of in your hands or your administration's hands about getting the speakers that were in here.
Yes, I'm waiting.
back?
Yes, I'm waiting for a cost estimate from the IT department. Depending on where it comes in, it may need to be a budget item for next fiscal year. But we're scoping out what it will take to do it right.
Okay. So it was helpful.
It was very helpful.
Yes.
I feel like I didn't feel I was yelling at you that night.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, I have a couple of things I would like to mention. Mayor, if we could possibly look into getting the audio portion of that done sooner. I know that there's a whole project with updating the in-room owls and pickup for the YouTube feed, but if we could get the audio system in a lot sooner, it would be very helpful to those of us here in the chamber and to those who come in and visit us at each meeting.
Absolutely, totally agree. Just also, one thing I forgot to mention was, our IT department's doing the best they can with the resources they have, but our focus over the last 30 days has been the dispatch move. So dispatch has now been moved to Holden Street. So that has been monopolizing all of our time. But we'll get back on that. But they need to scope out what the project cost will be.
Okay, I thank you on that. Also, I want to mention that on a recent couple of walks around the city, there was a lot of dog matter on the sidewalks, and I'm asking folks to please clean up after your pets. I saw a situation on Main Street today where the pet took advantage of one of the tree planting areas and also dug the mulch, and there was a pattern of mulch scattered from around there.
Not my dog.
And there was evidence of that. So I do ask people to clean up after their dogs.
That's 5 little dogs. Not one big dog. It's 5 little dogs.
I don't know who it is. Anyways. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. At this point, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.